Hi, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Zach, and I'll be giving you a lecture on the Pact of Umar. Hope you enjoy! The Pact of Umar, also known as the Covenant, Treaty, or Laws of Umar, was a treaty made between the Muslim and Christian people of Syria, Mesopotamia, and Jerusalem. The actual document itself is thought to be a creation of Umar around 634, but this is often contested as many believe it was created in 717 by Umar II. Some historians actually believe that the document may have never existed at all, and was an artificial creation cobbled from pre-existing laws in the area. These laws were made to regulate non-Muslim citizens, dhimmis, in cities recently conquered by the Muslim and Turkish empires. The purpose of the document was to limit the interaction between Muslim citizens and dhimmis, as well as give the dhimmis an incentive to join the state army, which would give them equal status to their Muslim neighbors, or to convert to Islam, which would also give them equal status to their Muslim neighbors. Previous to these laws being put into place by the conquering Muslim Empire, the non-Christian citizens in the Byzantine Empire had to be subjected to a very similar set of laws. The Jewish people, in particular, understood that with a new governing body would come new laws and restrictions on their human rights. It was now the conquered Christians who had to adjust to living under the same kind of oppressive laws they had previously put forth. The pact itself was a document made with the understanding that if the dhimmis were to break any of the laws set forth, that they would be considered an enemy of the state and killed. But if they were to follow these laws, or join the army, or convert to Islam, they would be protected under the ruling government, the same as any Muslim citizen. Some of these laws included the prohibition against building new churches or places of worship, as well as rebuilding destroyed churches by day or night in both dhimmi and Muslim neighborhoods. There was also a regulation on the worship places of non-Muslims that required all churches to be lower in elevation to the lowest mosque in town, which also extended to the houses of non-Muslim citizens, as they could not be taller in elevation to any house that belonged to a Muslim citizen. In addition to a prohibition against hanging crosses in churches, Muslims were allowed to enter churches for shelter at any time, both night and day. The call of prayer by bell or gong was to be low in volume, and dhimmis were not allowed to raise their voices at prayer times. There was a ban against teaching non-Muslim children the Quran, and Christians were forbidden to show their religion or be seen with Christian books or symbols. Additionally, they could not be on roads and markets of Muslims. Palm Sunday and Easter parades were outright banned, and funerals had to be conducted quietly, with non-Muslim dead forbidden from being buried next to Muslims. There was a prohibition against raising a pig next to a Muslim neighbor, and Christians were forbidden from selling Muslims alcoholic beverages and were forbidden to provide shelter or cover for spies. There was a prohibition against telling a lie about a Muslim and an obligation to show deference towards Muslims. For example, if a Muslim wished to sit, a non-Muslim must rise and give their seat to the Muslim and let them sit. There was a prohibition against preaching to Muslims, asking them to convert from Islam, as well as a prohibition against preventing the conversion to Islam of someone who wanted to convert. The appearance of non-Muslims must be different from those of Muslims. There was a prohibition against wearing a halinsua, which is a kind of dome that is used to wear by a Bedouin, Bedouin turbans, Muslim shoes, and a sash around their waist. As to their heads, it was forbidden to comb the hair sideways as Muslim custom, and they were forced to cut the hair front of their head. Also, non-Muslims shall not imitate the Arab Muslim way of speaking, nor shall they adopt the kunyas. There was an obligation to identify non-Muslims, such as by clipping the heads, forelocks, and by always dressing in the same manner, wherever they go, with a binding of the zunar, a kind of belt, around the waists. Christians were to wear blue belts or turbans, Jews yellow, Zoroastrians black, and Samaritans red. There was also a prohibition against riding animals in the Muslim custom, which extended to riding with saddles. There was a law against adopting a Muslim title of honor, as well as engraving Arabic inscriptions on a signet seal. And non-Muslims must host a Muslim passerby for at least 3 days and feed him. They were also prohibited from buying a Muslim prisoner or taking slaves that had been allotted to Muslims. There was also a prohibition against non-Muslims to lead, govern, or employ Muslims. If a non-Muslim beats a Muslim, his dhimmi status is removed, removing any protection and labeling him an enemy of the state, which makes it so that he can be killed on the spot. These rules were not always consistent. This list is widely accepted to be the most common, but many conquered cities only applied some of these laws. The status of dhimmis also varied just as widely as the pact itself. In many instances of cities using these laws, if a dhimmi were to break any rule, they would be killed on the spot. But that isn't always the case. Many were just jailed or fined. These laws can also be seen as a precursor to modern-day religious laws, practiced not only in the Middle East, but across the entire planet. We see similar kinds of restrictions in places like Europe with the Catholic Church in particular, and in the United States with our predominantly Christian religious and political institutions. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and goodbye! What are you still doing here? The video's over.